to another episode of Hoot and Poop. So in today's video, I will be rushing out, Arqit's latest earning transcript, which has been released yesterday. So here it is. It's going to be a very rushed one that I will be sharing with you guys. So firstly, if I'm you, if you're an investor, if you're interested, please go and read through the whole earning transcript. It's actually really very short compared to the normal ones. But I will just go through some of the key points here and give you some of my take on it. Okay, overall, it's not really a very standard earning transcript where there are a lot of people asking questions and stuff. Perhaps, probably because number one, it's still relatively unknown, and number two, it's their first ever earning transcript, and it's not like there's financial details or backing up and so on. So this is just a very preliminary one for you guys to understand better. Before I go into the details, firstly, when I look at it, what come to my mind is that, or rather, before the earnings transcript being released, what I actually want to look at is basically how Arqit lay out their plans moving into 2022, 2023, and so on. What's their onboarding strategy? Because like I said before, they need to have both the large customers coming from the government, large enterprise, and as well as the small customers. So this is something that I actually want to look at in this earning transcript. And of course, hopefully they can share, the third point I hope that they can share is that how superior their technology are compared to competitors. So this is also another thing that I'm interested to look at. Now, let's move into this portion, the highlighted one. So firstly, I highlighted, you say that, David, who is the founder, as well as the CEO, he said that, Arqit has sufficient capital for his case, and they have cash flow positive. Okay, so this is something that is very important, because generally speaking, for young companies that just listed, right, many of times I always look at they do not really have cash flow positive. So without cash flow positive, they run into a risk of running out of cash and bankruptcy whatsoever. But for Arqit's case, they are cash flow positive, and this speaks volumes. Why? Because they have not launched their satellite, even though that's not being launched by them, it's being launched by Virgin. But the problem is that they are still growing, they're still building their capability, and this actually requires them to spend money. They have to spend on some capex. But the fact that they are already cash flow positive, this also goes in line with what the CEO has said previously, that they do not need the cash, they are cash flow positive. This is in line with what they said. Okay, so the reason why they list via specs is because they want to have more awareness, create brand awareness. All right, so this is what I am looking at. Okay, now next thing is that, all right, they say that the first billing is going to take place in December. Yeah, so there's something that I want to look at. Okay, which is something good. At least there will be some revenues coming in. Okay, they also say on-term revenue basically it's a recurring revenue. So what does it mean is that it is a SaaS revenue model where the revenues are recurring, and I really love recurring revenues, because no matter what, we know that every year there will always be money flowing into them. So there's something that is very good. Okay. They also said that they have roll out cloud fulfillment more extensively next year. So this is one of the growth plans that I am looking at. Okay, and they will generate a large number of smaller customers. So what does it mean? It just tells you that, look, they are not just targeting the big customers, they are looking at the small players as well. Now, what does it mean? So if I were to read deeper, understand deeper, is that what we need to track is that we need to track their sales and marketing, because they have to pump in sales and marketing in order to reach out to more customers. This is something that I will have to look at it. Okay. They also talk a little bit about the current encryption as to why it's not as good. So they said PKI, they will be compromised, right, in a matter of 5 years. So I have read before an article, I believe I talked about it before. They say that there's a report to say that in about 2 to 3 years time or whatsoever, current encryption may not be that useful. So there's a need for them to shift into quantum encryption, and which goes in line with whatever David has mentioned. Okay. Now, he also talked about this thing called the AES 256 algorithm. Okay. I keep it something similar. Basically, it's that whatever is in the devices currently uses AES 256 algorithm. So what Arqit does is that they're not replacing AES 256 algorithm. Okay, but they say that they are able, to replace the courier, which is the one that links up to the AES 256 in, put it in a very simple terms. Okay, so this algorithm, this AES 256 is really a global standard, so there's no need for any major overhaul of your software system in order to adopt Arqit. So this tells me that look, the onboarding process is easy because you're just tapping onto the existing features and that's it. Okay, and by tapping onto the existing features, all right, and you get Arqit on board, basically you are creating something that your key will not be broken or intercepted. That's about it. Okay, he also mentioned about the US government has also said that, all right, the post-quantum algorithm are not universally suitable or timely solutions. Okay, and also their customers has also said the same thing. So this tells me that quantum encryption is proven to be stable, unbroken. That's how we look at it. Okay. Next, we look at the next one. He also mentioned, he said that their Arqit's innovation have two parts to it. The first part is that satellite quantum key distribution. All right. This is something that I covered before, where we talk about for quantum encryption is good. Is definitely the better one compared to current encryption. But the limitation is that its range, it has a limited range. Even with satellite, your range is still limited. But Arqit said that they have solved the problem with the invention of the new quantum protocol called Arq-19, meaning to say they are able to reach global, all right, as well as making it trustless. Okay, so this puts them ahead of a lot of their competitors. Okay, they have also talked about where they are introducing a new classical cryptography protocol. Okay, so where it works with some endpoints, borrows elements from the vendor numbers. So basically, this just tells you that they are working on the new features. But what's the key important point is the first, their first innovation, or rather the Arq-19. Okay, so they also talk about September this year they have launched Quantum Cloud with their first customer on board. It means to say we can kind of expect 2023 to have more customers on it. So what we need to monitor is that we need to monitor whether are there more customers coming on board and whether are there any churns of customers. Because if there are churns or large churn of customers, then this tells me some red flags to it. Okay. We also look at they are also busy discussing with other parties to move on the next stage. For this portion here, what they talk about is the government FQS. Okay, basically this is just the FQS. And what's the key point I wanted to tell you is that they said that they are able to generate a basic recurring revenue of 25 million. That's about it. That's really awesome. So now with UK coming on board, right, and they said before 6 other companies are looking at it. Imagine all of them come on board, 7 companies, 7 countries multiplied by 25 million per year on a recurring basis. The revenue is crazy. This is how I look at it. Okay. You also mentioned that their platform is infinitely scalable. It's definitely scalable, which is true, given that the fact is that it's just such easy onboarding, limitless and it's trustless features, which is what people want, right? It's perfect. Low operating costs. Okay, so this portion here, right? Basically, it's a typical SaaS kind of model where you have quite little asset. It's kind of an asset-light businesses where you can scale easily. Okay. Then he also said that they are also recruiting extensively recruiting extensively at many locations around the world. So take note. This is also a sign of whether to tell whether the company is growing or not, because if the company is not recruiting people, it means to say there's nothing for them to go, there's nothing for them to improve upon. But if they are recruiting extensively, this just tells me that there is a growth signs there. Whether can they grow or not is a separate issue, but at least they took the step to grow. All right. Which then the next point I want to talk about is that in my previous video I also talked about they signed a deal with Neom. This is also true because they moved out of UK, although they are from UK, but they move out of UK and have other companies from other parts of the world. So this is something that I'm pretty much excited about, to look into 2023. Yep, so that's more or less about it. The key points here. So in overall, my closing remarks is that I feel Arqit is okay. Arqit pretty much doing quite well. they have kind of met whatever my expectations are. I was a little bit sad that there's nobody asking questions during the course. So rather than that, that's something that we shall have to wait until the next quarter for them to update us in their next call. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoy this piece of sharing. I really had to rush it out so that I can bring the most updated information for you guys. Please, I really appreciate a like and subscribe to it. Please also let me know your comments, your thoughts in the comment section below. And with that, I'll see you in my next video. Invest safe.